Imagine a world constantly trying to control you, to push you, provoke you, and pull you off balance. People test your patience. Situations test your spirit. Everything around you demands a reaction. But I learned a long time ago, if you react to everything, you'll never control anything. I didn't become Bruce Lee by flinching at insults or chasing every shadow just to prove I'm strong. I became Bruce Lee by training my mind to be still when the world screamed, by mastering my impulses, not just my fists, by choosing silence over ego and focus over fury. I didn't just learn how to move, I learned when not to. And now I'll show you how to do the same, because the moment you stop reacting to the world, that's the moment you start controlling it. Stillness is not weakness, it's mastery. When I was younger, people didn't believe in me. They looked at my size, my accent, my background, and laughed. They said, "You're too small to fight. You'll never be taken seriously. You don't belong in this world of giants." But I didn't shout back. I didn't waste my time explaining who I was. I stood still, and I trained, quietly, consistently, every single day. While they used their mouths, I used my time. While they tried to break me with words, I built myself with discipline. That's what stillness really is. It's not doing nothing. It's doing the work silently, without the need to prove anything to anyone. You see, most people confuse stillness with weakness. They think if you're not reacting, you're scared. They think if you're not loud, you're soft. But I've learned that stillness is the highest form of control. When you are still, you are centered. You are not pulled by emotion, not shaken by opinion, not moved by drama. Stillness allows you to see clearly. It gives you the power to choose, not to be pushed. It teaches you how to act with purpose, not out of pressure. And when you move from that place, you move like a sharpened blade, quick, clean, and precise. Not frantic, not messy, not weak. So be still, not because you're afraid, but because you're focused. Stillness is not hiding, it's watching. Stillness is not silence, it's strategy. And most importantly, stillness is the hidden blade. Don't flash it just to prove you have it. Wait until the moment is right, then strike once and end everything. Let me know when you're ready for the next lesson expanded the same way. Your energy is sacred, don't waste it on noise. There was a time when I would enter a room and people would whisper, they didn't think I belonged. Some smiled to my face, but their eyes showed doubt, disrespect, even fear. And I'll tell you something, I felt all of it. Every look, every word behind my back, every attempt to trigger me, but I never gave them what they wanted. I didn't react. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't fight battles that didn't deserve my energy. Instead, I stayed calm, I stayed focused. Because I knew one thing they didn't. My energy is sacred, and I refuse to waste it on noise. You see, reacting to every insult, every distraction, every opinion, it drains you. It pulls you away from your path and scatters your strength. And most people do this every day. They argue online, they shout in traffic, they chase approval from strangers. And by the end of the day, they wonder why they feel exhausted, unmotivated, lost. It's because they spent all their power on nothing. When I was building my skill, my body, and my mind, I protected my energy like treasure. I didn't allow every situation to steal my focus. I chose where I placed my attention. I chose what deserved my fire. And that's what I want you to understand. You don't owe your reaction to everything. You don't have to respond to every insult. You don't have to explain yourself to people who don't even know your story. Your energy is not cheap. It's fuel for your future. Every time you waste it on noise, you lose momentum on your mission. Think of yourself like a warrior before battle. Would you waste your sword swinging at shadows? No, you hold it close, sharpen it, save it for the right fight. Protect your energy the way I did. Use it only on what matters, and you will become unstoppable. Not because you fight everything, but because you choose what's worth fighting for. People who react are slaves. People who choose are free. I wasn't always in control of my emotions. When I was younger, I had fire, but no discipline. Someone would disrespect me and I'd flare up. A challenge would appear and I'd rush toward it without thinking, without clarity. I confused speed with strength. I thought reacting instantly meant I was powerful, but I was wrong. It took time, maturity, and deep training, not just of my body, but of my mind, to realize this truth. If someone can control your reaction, they control you. And if you're constantly reacting, you're not living free, you're being led. You become like a puppet, and the world pulls your strings. I had to unlearn that. I had to ask myself, why do I let others dictate when I get angry, when I speak, when I move? That's when I started to change. I trained myself to pause, to breathe, to observe before I respond, and something incredible happened. I gained power. Not over others, but over myself. I no longer danced to every beat the world played. I made my own rhythm. You must understand, people who react are easy to control. They're predictable, they're emotional slaves to the moment. But people who choose when to speak, when to act, when to walk away, they are truly free. They move on their own terms. They cannot be manipulated because their responses are not automatic. They are intentional, precise, purposeful. I didn't master martial arts just to win fights. I mastered myself so I could win in life. I didn't want to be a prisoner to other people's opinions or to my own anger. I wanted freedom, and that freedom came the moment I stopped reacting to everything. So here is your lesson. When someone tries to provoke you, pause. When life pressures you to respond instantly, pause. When emotion starts to rise in your chest, pause. In that pause lies your power. A slave reacts, a master chooses, and only the one who chooses is truly free. Silence is the sharpest sword. People often think power is loud, that the strongest man in the room is the one who speaks the most, shouts the hardest, or shows his strength at every turn. But let me tell you something from my own life. The most dangerous man in the room is usually the quiet one. I've been in rooms filled with arrogance, people boasting, showing off, throwing around their titles, their fame, their money. They thought noise made them strong. But I stayed silent. I watched. I studied. And when the time came, I let my actions speak. Not my mouth, my movement, my results, my discipline. And there were many times I was underestimated because I didn't speak loudly. When I was trying to enter the Hollywood industry, many people looked past me. They thought I was just another face, another name. I didn't fight back with arguments. I didn't try to prove myself with words. I stayed silent and I let my work speak for me. You see, silence is not empty. It is full of observation. It is full of focus. It is full of patience. And that makes it dangerous. Most people talk because they're afraid of being misunderstood. They defend themselves out of insecurity. But when you're grounded, truly grounded in who you are, you don't need to say much. Your presence becomes louder than any speech. I learned that silence isn't weakness. It's confidence without desperation. It's a sword sharpened in private, ready to strike when necessary, and it strikes deeper than any scream. When your silence is rooted in strength, it disorients people. They expect noise. They expect emotion. They expect a reaction. And when you give them stillness, they're left exposed. They start questioning themselves. Silence is a mirror. It reflects people's true intentions. It reveals truth without you saying a word. So don't always feel the need to explain yourself. Don't waste time responding to every attack. Train in silence, build in silence, grow in silence. Then, when it's time to show the world who you are, let your silence become your entrance. Let your movement be your voice. I didn't conquer the world by talking louder. I did it by sharpening my silence until it became unshakable presence. Speak less, move more. Let them feel you, not just hear you. Because in a world full of noise, silence is the sharpest sword. Let me know when you're ready for lesson 5, and I'll continue the same tone and style. Reacting is easy. Resisting is power. When I first began studying martial arts, I believed that strength was measured by how fast and how forcefully I could strike. Whenever someone insulted my skills or challenged my technique, I would immediately react, sometimes unleashing a flurry of punches just to prove myself. I thought if I could come at them faster, I'd be the one in control. But with time, sweat, and hard lessons, I realized something far more profound. It takes nothing to react, but everything to resist. I remember a tournament in Hong Kong where my opponent began taunting me before a single bow. The crowd was already on his side, calling me too small, too different, not serious enough. In my youth, I would have lunged forward immediately, letting anger blind me. Instead, I paused, I breathed. I let his words wash over me without engaging. I quietly observed his stance, his breathing, his gaze. While he wasted his energy on provocation, I conserved mine, staying calm, centered, ready. By the time I moved, he was off balance. He had already used up his emotional fuel. I simply stepped in, delivered a precise move, and won. Not because I was the stronger fighter that day, but because I was the one who chose when to act. That moment taught me a truth that transcends the ring. When you react, you hand control to your opponent. When you resist, you hold the reins of your own fate. Most people think reacting quickly is a sign of power, but true strength lies in that silent pause between stimulus and response. It's that breath you take before answering an insult. It's that heartbeat you allow yourself so you don't rush blindly into a fight you don't need to have. Every time you resist the urge to lash out, you prove to yourself that you are not a slave to emotion. You are its master. In life, you will face endless triggers. A rude comment on social media, a harsh word from a colleague, an unforeseen setback that threatens your plans. Your instinct might scream, strike back, prove them wrong. But if you give in to that instinct, you become a puppet moved by someone else's will. Instead, learn to resist. Let their words pass through you like wind through reeds, unmoved and unbroken. Save your energy for what truly matters, your vision, your craft, your growth. Resisting is not ignoring. Resisting is choosing your battle wisely. It's easy to lose yourself in the chaos of the moment. I know, I've been there. Early on, I chased every challenge, fought every insult. I thought it meant I was proving my worth. But each clash drained me, mentally, physically, spiritually. Only when I learned to hold back, analyze the situation, and act from a place of clarity did I discover real power. That power comes from knowing that not every provocation deserves your response. So remember this: the next time anger rises in your chest like a storm, pause, feel it, let it settle, understand what it wants you to do, and then decide. Does it deserve to become your action? Or will you resist, conserve your power, and move forward on your own terms? Resisting is the path to freedom, because once you master that pause, you become like a calm sea beneath a raging storm, unshaken, unbroken, and infinitely powerful. 6. You are not your thoughts, you are the observer. For years, I battled my own mind before I ever stepped into a ring. I remember nights when sleep would evade me, my head racing with doubts. Am I skilled enough? Will they ever respect me? What if I fail in front of everyone? Those thoughts churned like a storm, clouding my focus, draining my energy long before the sun rose. In those early days, I believed my mind was the battlefield, and my enemy was every thought that popped into my head. But through deep reflection and relentless training, I discovered a truth that changed everything. You are not the whirlwind of thoughts. You are the calm sky in which they all rise and pass. When I first started teaching Kung Fu, I saw my students trapped by their own minds. They would tense up at a single critique, freeze when they saw a challenging move, or panic when they imagined failure. Their thoughts shaped their identity. I am weak. I am unworthy. I cannot win. And because they believed those thoughts, they performed exactly as they feared, half-heartedly, hesitant, defeated before they even began. I went through a similar journey. In my early competitions, the instant an opponent's reputation or a crowd's disapproval flickered in my mind, I let it define me. My body tightened, my breath shortened, and I moved sluggishly because I had given power to every doubt. But one day, after a particularly crushing loss, I retreated into solitude and asked myself, who am I behind these thoughts? What watches them arise and disappear? That question launched my true training. I began to sit in silence, observing my mind the same way I watched my students' techniques, without judgment, without interruption. I noticed how thoughts would spring up on their own, a memory of failure, a fear of rejection, a craving for approval. Yet when I simply observed them, without reacting or labeling them good or bad, they began to lose their grip on me. They became fleeting images in the sky of my awareness. I realized thoughts are waves, the watcher is the ocean. As I embraced this perspective, my entire life shifted. On film sets, when critics murmured behind the camera or intimidated me with false rumors, I felt their words approach, but I no longer clung to them. I watched them rise like clouds and let them drift away. In my martial arts, before each fight, I would sit quietly, breathing deeply, letting my thoughts pass until I was nothing but clear intention and stillness. Only then did I move, pure and unhindered. From that vantage point, I saw clarity I had never known before. Thoughts are not real. They feel vivid. The voice in your head seems like an undeniable fact. But just because a thought says you're not good enough doesn't make it true. A thought is simply a message, nothing more. When you observe it without believing it, you lose its power over you. Resistance amplifies thoughts. Early on, if a negative thought entered my mind, they'll laugh at me. I reacted by arguing with myself, no, I won't let them. But that only gave the thought more attention and strength. Instead, I learned to let it surface, label it just a thought, and return my focus to my breath. In that space, the thought would weaken and vanish. Observation creates freedom. When you identify as the observer and not the thoughts, you reclaim sovereignty. Try this now. Notice a random thought. Maybe, what's for dinner tonight? Just watch it. You're not your plans for dinner. You're the presence noticing the plan. That separation is the doorway to freedom. Once you see thoughts as transient, you can choose action. In a fight, if a thought flashes, he's faster than me, you can acknowledge it and still act. Even if he is faster, I will stay calm and use my timing. You don't automatically freeze or panic. You choose action based on clarity, not impulse. I want you to feel the weight of this. When you believe every thought, you're a prisoner. When you simply observe, you're the master of everything inside you. Many people confuse meditation or silence with emptiness. They think if they quiet their minds, they become vacant. But true meditation is watching the storm without letting it pull you down. It's being fully present, feeling every heartbeat, every breath, while letting thoughts drift like leaves on a stream. That presence becomes your sanctuary. In my life, this practice became a cornerstone of my strength. My mind no longer betrayed me with unchecked fear or insecurity. Instead, I could tap into my deepest wisdom instantly. Whether I was delivering a monologue on set, demonstrating a complex sequence in the dojo, or facing an opponent in the ring, I accessed a stillness that made my movements deliberate and fierce. You are the space in which thoughts appear, and in that space lies your power. So here is your path. When doubt or fear emerges, don't fight it. Don't argue with it. Watch it. Notice how it feels, where it sits in your body. Say to yourself, I see you, but I am not you. Let it pass. Return to the rhythm of your breath. Practice this until your mind no longer enslaves you. Practice this until your thoughts become tools you can observe, not chains that bind you. And the next time life throws a whirlwind of noise at you, criticism, gossip, panic, remember, you have the power to stand apart, to witness, to choose. You are not your thoughts, you are the observer. And in that space, you are free. In that freedom, you become unstoppable. 7. Every reaction costs you peace. Every discipline buys you power. When I first arrived in America, I faced a storm I never expected. Doors were closed to me, not because of my ability, but because of my accent, my skin, my heritage. Producers and directors would look at me and see broken English or foreign talent, not potential. I felt a fire in my chest, the urge to lash out, to argue, to demand respect. I could have ranted and raged, but I learned early on that every reaction like that comes at a cost. Peace. Peace is a treasure many don't realize until it's gone. I remember sitting in a director's office, my script in hand. He looked me in the eye and said, "You're not the leading man type. You should go back to Hong Kong." In that moment, my heart pounded. I could feel my throat tighten. It would have been easy to retort, "You're ignorant," or to storm out angrily. But I paused, I breathed, and instead of reacting, I simply nodded and left the room. That calm departure cost me no more energy than a brief inhale. It conserved my peace. It preserved my focus on the real battle, earning their respect through action. Action, consistent, disciplined action, is always stronger than any reaction. In those early days, I built my training schedule and my film reel. I worked on perfecting every punch, every kick, and every line delivery until they couldn't deny my skill. Months later, that same director called me back. He wanted to see my new demonstration reels. He offered me a part because he saw discipline, not drama. He saw that I valued progress over pointless conflict. Let me break down why this matters. Every reaction is a transaction with your calm. When someone pushes your buttons, whether it's an insult, a dismissal, or a betrayal, you have two choices. You can spend your energy reacting in the moment, shouting, pleading, defending. Or you can keep your calm and reserve that energy for something that truly matters. Reaction is a withdrawal from your inner bank of peace. Every time you argue just to prove yourself, you're spending precious currency that you might need to invest in growth later. Discipline is an investment that compounds over time. Discipline is waking up early to train your body and mind, even when you're tired. It's sticking to your routine, even when distractions scream at you to quit. It's choosing to work silently in the background instead of seeking attention with loud complaints. And each day you practice discipline, you deposit value into your future self. Over time, those deposits compound. Your skills become sharper, your confidence grows deeper, and your control over your destiny becomes unshakable. Peace becomes your foundation for power. There's a story from my sparring days. I was paired with a fighter known for his trash talk. He would mock my style, shout insults about my size, and try to provoke me into mistakes. He thought that if he could rile me up, I'd lose focus and he'd win. But I refused to give him that chance. Before the bout, I spent 10 minutes meditating, visualizing every possible insult and letting it pass without attachment. When we entered the ring, I felt cool, collected, and centered. He attacked wildly, fueled by rage and ego, but I remained rooted in calm. His wasted energy became his downfall. Within moments, I delivered a precise series of moves and won. That victory wasn't just about physical skill. It was about the power that comes from inner peace. Discipline shapes your character, not just your outcome. I didn't become a legend by winning every fight or making every film. I became a legend because I disciplined my character, my decisions, my habits, my reactions. I chose to cultivate humility in victory and grace in defeat. I chose not to boast even when crowds applauded. I chose to train when no one was watching and to rest when I needed to recharge. That kind of discipline shapes who you are at your core. And when people see that character, unwavering, consistent, unreactive to petty drama, they start to respect you. They trust in your word. They believe in your presence. Real strength is knowing when not to fight. Early in my career, I was challenged to street fights by various opponents who thought beating a martial artist would bring them fame. Each time I faced a choice: engage and risk injury to prove my toughness, or refuse their challenge and be branded a coward. I noticed that some martial artists would eagerly accept every street challenge, then complain later about bruises or bones. I decided instead to walk away. I told myself, Bruce, this battle is pointless. Your real fight is becoming the best you can be, so don't waste time on these distractions. And as I walked away, I found peace in knowing that discipline meant prioritizing my mission over ego. It took strength to resist the temptation to react, to prove something to the wrong audience. So here's your path forward. When someone tries to bait you, pause. Feel the urge to react. Acknowledge it. Then ask yourself, will this reaction move me closer to my goals, or will it rob me of peace? When you feel the pull of impulsive response, remember my story on that film set, the boxing ring or the street corner. Choose discipline, choose calm. Let those moments become fuel for your progress, not distractions. Build daily rituals, meditation, focused training, or even a simple moment of silence before you act. Each time you do, you reinforce that peace is more valuable than any fleeting satisfaction from a reaction. Celebrate your victories of restraint. Each time you resist reacting, you grow stronger. You are telling the world and yourself that your peace is worth more than any argument. Every reaction costs you peace. Every discipline buys you power. If you commit to this principle, you'll find something incredible. The world will begin to respect your calm. Opportunities will come to you instead of you chasing them. And when you finally do engage, whether in dialogue, in art, or in battle, it will be with the full force of your disciplined power, honed in a place of unbreakable peace. That is true mastery. That is how legends are made. When I began my journey, I faced ridicule, doubt, and countless obstacles. Yet through each trial, I discovered a simple truth. Power lies not in reaction, but in choice. You've walked with me through these 7 lessons, from the mastery of stillness to the discipline that forges true freedom. Now it's time to bring them together and see how they shape a legend. I didn't earn respect by matching every insult or answering every challenge. I earned it by knowing when to remain silent and when to move. I found strength in patience, energy in preservation, clarity in observation, and peace in disciplined action. Each lesson built upon the last, stillness as mastery. I stood silent while they mocked me, training quietly until my skill did the talking, protecting sacred energy. I refused to spend my power on meaningless disputes, saving it for the battles that mattered. Freedom through choice. I paused before reacting, refusing to be manipulated by emotion or opinion. Silence as the sharpest sword. I let my presence and my craft speak for themselves, disorienting those who expected noise. Power in resistance. I learned that resisting the impulse to strike gave me control over every situation. Observer, not thoughts. I discovered that by watching each thought without attachment, I could maintain clarity under pressure. Peace over reaction. I chose disciplined action over fleeting satisfaction, building strength that could never be taken by a single outburst. When you weave these principles into your life, something remarkable happens. People stop seeing you as just another contender. They see someone who cannot be shaken by gossip, envy, or drama. Someone who stands apart, calm in the eye of every storm. That is not arrogance. It is the quiet confidence of someone who has mastered self. A reaction may win you a moment, but discipline wins you a legacy.
Every time you choose not to react, to hold your ground, to preserve your focus, to let silence do the work, you affirm that your path is your own. You affirm that no external force can dictate your trajectory. That is the essence of becoming a legend.
So stand tall in the face of provocation. Protect your energy like a sacred fire. Observe every storm in your mind without letting it extinguish that fire. Strike only when your purpose is clear, and let every movement spring from calm intention. Remember my words, react to nothing, and you will control everything. When others expect anger, give them stillness. When they demand explanations, offer them results. When they test your limits, show them that your limits are set only by your discipline. Legends are not born from chaos. They are sculpted by choice. They are forged in silence, sharpened by patience, and powered by unwavering peace. Walk this path. Embrace these lessons. And watch as the world stops trying to pull you off balance, because they will see you do not flinch, you do not stumble, you do not react. You simply move forward, steady as a mountain, silent as the night, unbreakable as steel. That is how legends are made.